on the card, he wrote down, you know, the best gift that you gave to me, Gabe, was time. And so I wanted to give that gift to you as well.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of What You're Wearing. Today we have the honor of interviewing Labeg, aka Gabe. No, I think it should be Gabe, aka Labeg. But I'm sure a lot of people know you more by your artist name than your real name.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That's
Yeah.
true. Actually, I don't even think a lot of people know my real name, so it doesn't matter.
But it's okay. You have a debut video interview
I know.
now.
Oh, well, I'm so honored, right? I really love what you guys do, so this is such an honor for me.
Yeah, and thank you for speaking with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure.
So, do you think people know you more as a watch enthusiast or an artist primarily?
I think people now think of me as an artist more than a watch enthusiast. Before, definitely, I was more of a watch enthusiast, right? That's kind of how I fell into this type of artwork as well, because I love watches, right? Definitely.
So now you're renowned as one of the leading artists in terms of like watch art, and I think you definitely have a very distinct style in that you make these cardboard versions of watches, but in a very childlike style.
Yeah.
So what sort of inspired you to make art in this style? Because I mean, I've read interviews from you before where you say you can definitely draw better than this.
Yeah, well, I swear I can draw a lot better than this, right? But no, I'm not as great of an illustrator as some of those really amazing watch artists like Julie Crowless, like where they can just draw hyper realistic and it looks like a photo, right? I'm not that good, right? So, but I also love, artists that draw in a kind of like a dream type of aesthetic, right? Or very childlike aesthetic as well, like. Jean-Michel Basquiat is my favorite artist, right? And also even Picasso. And so they inspired me. And I think there's a saying from Picasso where he said something like, and I might butcher this, but he said something like it took him 5 years to paint like Michelangelo, right? But it took him a lifetime to draw like a child, right? And so I thought that was so cool, right? Tapping back into that raw creativity of a child, right? It's such an amazing way to kind of express your art, and so that's kind of what inspires me to do it like that, right? Because I like it, and I think ultimately it makes me laugh. It makes me feel like, oh, this is super fun, right? And so that's why I do it, because I don't like to take things too seriously, right? So.
No, I think that's cool, and I think like if you look back into Picasso's earlier work, right?
Yeah.
He does things actually very well.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just only as his career, progresses.
Exactly.
He does the, like the more modern stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to watches, right, which is part of what motivated you to watch art in the first place. So what do you like about watches? Because some people, they like the mechanical aspect, some people they like the design, and some people they like the story behind the watches. So what is it for you that makes you love watches so much?
Like initially, it was definitely the design. Right. I think coming from a design background, the aesthetics is something that really draws me into the watch. But then when I dove deeper into watches, I started to really appreciate the mechanics. So I love the complications of the watches. I love to look at the movements, the engineering, the finishing, the craftsmanship. And then when I got even deeper into it, then I started really loving the stories behind it. Just like vintage Rolex and like the military subs or all those like Comex subs. Right, and so I think I fell into all the different rabbit holes of watch collecting, right?
So you brought a few watches today, to show us, and I guess if you love the story, then there must be a lot of, story behind these watches as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I chose these 4 watches because these 4 watches are probably the most meaningful to me and most personal to me.
Okay, so why don't we start with one of the earlier ones that you have?
Sure. So this is the Black Bay, the burgundy one. So when the Black Bay first came out and how it kind of blew up two-door, right? I love just the style, the kind of reimagination of those vintage subs, right? And I love this watch, and I was kind of wanting to buy it, but at that time, you know, I just didn't want to pull the trigger because I was not making that much money. But I have a friend, a really good friend of mine, one of my best friends in Toronto. He really took me under his wing, and he just helped me, mentored me to learn business, to also learn how to be, you know, a genuine person. It's funny because his name is Genuine as well. And you know, he just taught me how to be, you know, just a good man, like a humble person and a generous person as well. And so when I moved to Hong Kong on my birthday, he bought me this watch as a gift, you know, a farewell gift and a birthday gift. And then on the card, he wrote down, you know, the best gift that you gave to me, Gabe, was time. And so I wanted to give that gift to you as well. And so that's why whenever I wear this watch, and it's so meaningful to me, because this reminds me of how important relationships are and how much friendships are the most valuable thing in life, right? And the best thing you can do is give, you know, your friends time.
Wow, that's really meaningful. You almost make me want to cry a little bit.
Yeah.
So I noticed you took off the bezel for this.
Oh,
one,
yes,
right?
yeah. So
right. I think you only recognize it by the red crown tube, but
yeah, that's true. Okay, so the story behind that is I love like the story of vintage Rolexes, going back to that side of watch collecting. And I remember there was a watch that was sold in an auction. It was Marlon Brando's GMT-1675. And the story was he wanted to look more rugged and rough, and because they're in the war, right? So he popped off the bezel, and I loved that look. And so I was like, I want to try that. So I popped off the bezel on this so that you can kind of see the crystal kind of bulge out more, right? And so it looks just more rugged, more rough, but it just looks so cool. So I don't know if anybody else has done that before, but yeah, I guess it's the art side of me. I want to be different. I want to do things differently. So that's what I did, and I thought it was really fun.
So now you just need to engrave your name in the back like Marlon Brando.
I should do that. I definitely should. I didn't even think about that. I should do that.
Just scratch it up with
with a knife or whatever. Right.
So I see that the Rolex Tudor type of sports watch is quite prevalent in your collection as well, right?
Kind
and
of.
then the next one, which is an actual vintage watch versus a vintage-inspired watch, is the 1675. So for me, it's one of my favorite vintage Rolexes as well, and this one is such a beautiful, beautiful example. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
No, the GMT-1675 was kind of like almost my favorite watch of all time. I love the history behind it. I love the function of it. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for saying this, but I love the date window because it's so functional. I need to know the date all the time, because when I'm doing like admin stuff, I'm writing down the date. But also like it's colorful. Like you don't see many other Rolexes or watches that have color, right? So that pop of like blue and red, or even in this case like that salmon copper color, right? And then also because I'm a traveler, I'm always traveling, I'm going back and forth, right? And so knowing multiple time zones is so important to me because I need to know, right? Like when I go on a long haul flight, I will set the bezel, right? The starting arrow at the GMT time hand, and then I can time how long my flight is, because every time I go to Canada, it's like 15 hours. So I want to know, right? Or how many movies I've watched so far. So yeah, I need to time all that stuff. Yeah, this one is actually very personal to me. So in 2022, my art kind of blew up. Like it was incredible. Like it surpassed any dream of mine. Like I never even dreamed to be an artist. It just kind of happened. I think not a lot of people know that in 2022 actually was a really difficult year for me. I had like a lot of unfortunate life circumstances that happened, right? And it was really hard, you know. It was amazing because when all this happened, you know, I felt God he was just blessing me. He was just like pouring out his blessings just to help me get through that time, right? When life like knocked me down, you know, God picked me back up, like by giving me an opportunity to do an interview with New York Times or Hypebeast or even make art for Pharrell. It was so incredible. It was like he did things for me in the hardest time of my life when I didn't feel like I could really see a future, right? And so I was looking at this watch, I saw it popped up, right? And I was at a really, really low point in that season of my life, and I remember thinking, oh man, this watch is incredible, but like, why am I even thinking about buying a watch? Like, I don't deserve it, right? I'm going through so many things right now, like, it shouldn't even be on my mind, right? And so one day I was just at church, and then all of a sudden, like, this thought came into my head, and it was like God telling me, like, Gabe, go buy the watch. Like, I brought you all this art, and I want you to have this as a gift from me, because I want you to wear it, and whenever you look at it, I want you to know that this watch took on a whole life, right? It took on, you know, life's scratches and dents and bumps. It aged. It doesn't look like how it was born, but because it took on that life, it became more valuable, right? And so every time I wear this watch, you know, I think about that he's making me more valuable, and he's making me more valuable to the people around me, so that I can care for people better, I can love people better. Like, he's shaping me to be a better person. Right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great point, right? Like, it's like a vintage watch, you know. I think
Yeah.
if it looks a bit more aged, like that bezel
Yeah.
there, right? Like a little bit faded, then it's almost like more appealing aesthetically.
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
And it shows its age, but it also shows that it has a story behind it, right?
Yeah.
And if you see like a 1675 with like a fully new bezel, then you almost feel like, oh, something is a little bit off
Yeah, it's
there.
too clean, or it looks too perfect, right? But I love that character. That's why I really love vintage watches, right?
And I also really like the use of the GMT hand as a flight timer.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard anything
it's
anyone
it's
using
so
it
good.
like that. You know?
Oh really? Being different.
Yeah. So for those out there, if you want to
Yeah.
use your GMT as a flight timer, then you know, start doing it.